You mentioned policing
Mm.
before, and I know you've got a good example of how the way in which we frame our role in the world is quite powerful in terms of the choices that we make when we're reacting or proactively engaging with it around us. And I believe that there was a former police commissioner in Philadelphia called Charles H. Ramsey, and when he took power, you've got a story in terms of the office of the commissioner in Philadelphia. He asked his police officers a simple question that made them think quite deeply about what it was they were there to do and their relationship with their communities. What was that question and what did it lead to?
So yeah, I'll give you some of the backstory on this. I saw the very first TEDx Philly, I think that ever happened. The first one I went to, certainly. They had a bunch of speakers. One of them was Charles Ramsey, who at the time had just become the police commissioner of Philadelphia. And I think that's 2-3 commissioners ago. But he tells this story about how he asks his officers on, day one, what do you think your job is? And a lot of them would answer to enforce the law. And he would say, okay, that sounds like a reasonable answer. But what if I told you your job is to protect civil rights? Now, that's a bigger job, right? It encompasses enforcing the law, but it's a bigger job because it forces you to treat people with dignity. And as soon as I heard that, like that stuck with me. This is long before I created the talk or the book. But the first time I gave the talk, which was at UX Copenhagen, like 2017, 2018, like I put that in there and it stayed in there. Now, this is before 2020 Black Lives Matter movement explodes with all of the murders that happened in that time frame, but certainly not before the habit of police officers murdering Black people had been a thing for a long time. And I remember like making the conscious choice to leave that in there, even though it was really difficult. And we had this conversation in the book too. Like, is this appropriate for the book? But I keep it in because now more than ever, it's clear how we define our jobs is a matter of life and death. And it's a very emotional piece, but it kind of rings true. And there's something really powerful about that question. What do you think your job is? What is your, because it's another way of asking, what is your purpose? Why are you here? It's one of the oldest human questions. Why are we here? And I think how we answer, whether we even choose to engage with the question, I think is one thing, because I think a lot of us, it never even occurs to us. But then once we do engage with it, what answer we give has powerful implications for how we live our lives, how we do our jobs. And I think a really big clarion call for design right now is, what is the role? What is the responsibility? Like there's that word, responsibility. What is the role and responsibility of a designer? And I think for a long time, and certainly in the time I was enamored with like design thinking and human-centered design, these cool new concepts, right? It was just, oh, design cool shit and impress people, right? Like that's the role of design. It's like come up with this cool new thing that no one ever thought of. And it's becoming clear now that no, that can't be it. That just can't be it, because people are getting hurt if that's your goal. It's like, no, how do you find a way to define your job in a way that allows you to be more human to each other? That becomes the goal. And that is to me, a much more interesting question than like, how does Bitcoin work or whatever, whatever the new hotness is. Like, I'm much more interested in how are we defining our roles, whether it's as designers, as citizens, as people who live in a place, as just people that allows us to be more human to each other. I think that's a really interesting place to try to operate from.